Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tracer Franchising Podcast. I'm Josh Emison, founder of Tracer Franchising. We help high-performing professionals, especially veterans, find and evaluate the right franchise so they can build serious businesses, not side hustles. Today's episode is about one of the most interesting and overlooked opportunities I've come across: temporary wall systems. This is a B2B franchise in a category most people don't even realize exists. And yet, it's quietly showing up in hospitals, airports, malls, and even restoration jobs all over the country. If you ever walked past a construction zone and thought, I wish I owned the company that's getting paid to fence off that project, this is your episode. If you haven't thought that, maybe you should have. We're talking low overhead, recurring revenue, and a national demand with almost no direct competition. Stick around to learn how it works, who it's for, what makes this unique, and why it might just be one of the smartest opportunities in the franchising world right now. Let's dive in. All right, Jason, great to have you here. Let's start with just, a little bit about you and your background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, nice to be here, Josh. I appreciate you and appreciate your time, spending some time with us here. So my kind of background, I'm a serial entrepreneur, started at the age of 16 and then built a bunch of businesses and ended up in franchising with what used to be called Dwyer Group and now is Neighborly, and built some companies with those guys, and then end up over at Restoration One with Gary Finley and the Finley Group and some of those brands. And that's where I met a lot of the folks that I'm working with here currently at Homefront. I've been in franchising for about 20 years, still an entrepreneur, still do a lot of different things and have my hands in a lot of different stuff. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been a learning experience for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's helpful when a franchise developer has had a lot of experience on the operation side, whether it's as the franchisor or whether it's as a business owner. So very cool that you have, a huge background in that. All right, so let's start with what we came here to talk about, right? Temporary wall systems. Can you give us a quick, what is the business, what's the model, and what makes it special?
Yeah, so temporary walls is kind of a unique space. I've been around franchising and built many of businesses in the past. I've done retail, I've done janitorials, I've done service-based businesses. I was in aircraft at one point in time.
Cool.
I've done a little bit of everything and done a lot of B2C style stuff, the whether it be, landscaping or painting or pressure washing, those types of things. And that's what's unique about temporary walls, is being a B2B style business. And even to go further from that, it's, temporary walls is one of these things that's, we're the only ones out there. I mean, this hasn't been done before. It truly is what it is, temporary wall. So the contractors have always, been used to, when you walk through the shopping mall or you walk through a commercial space that's being remodeled, and you see these sheetrock, right? You see sheetrock, you see plywood, you see plastic, these types of things. And that's just what we do. We've come in and really changed the game in a lot of areas in creating a new containment system. And it's a faster, easier, better, quicker way to do things. And it's a neat product. So I don't know how far you want me to go into detail on that, but that's kind of the gist of it's a pretty simple model, right? It's temporary walls, right? It's what do we do? We put up temporary walls in construction situations, and whether that be restoration, whether that be remodel situations. This originated in the hospital industry, the medical space, and that's kind of where these things kind of came from. As ICRA, one of the certified people there for the medical spaces, decided that plastic and sheetrock and drywall and these types of things could not be used in the hospital space. And so that's where it kind of developed from about 8 years ago.
Yeah, for people who are having a hard time imagining this, right? I'm sure you've gone past a bar in a hotel lobby, a new building in a mall, right? They're putting a different store, or they're doing renovation on a hospital, and you're used to the really ugly walls, right? Whether, like you said, it's the plastic or the plywood or whatever. And this looks like, I was watching some videos today, and it looks like it should be there permanently. Like, it's very nice looking, right?
It's sharp.
And then I was watching actually a video of people putting the walls in, and it's like ingenious. It's like Legos that can modulate depending on how tall or short you need it, and then you just put them all next to each other. And they have doors built into them. So it's one of those things where everyone who has a building where there's going to be customers walking through, but they need to do renovation, needs this, which is literally every single commercial space in the country, right? So just hopefully that painted a little better picture for people who are trying to like envision what this looks like at home. Um, so it's very cool. It's very cool, very B2B. And like you said, it's very unique, right? So, um, just to give it an idea, I don't know if you have numbers around like how big is this market.
So that's a great question. I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, we launched in January of 23, and it just keeps moving forward. I mean, going back previous conversation there, it started in the medical space, and the medical space is what it was built for. I mean, that was why it was invented, to create what you call negative air component, so that infectious disease control did not pass from one side to the other, and they could use this type of system, if you will, modular wall system, to do construction. Or maybe it was COVID, right? So COVID was a big thing for us in the medical space. And since then, it has evolved so much. I mean, we're doing work in gas stations. We do all the Love travel stops. Well, I mean, we do CVS, Dunkin' Donuts. We're doing work with Walmart right now.
Oh, wow.
There's just so many different spaces that this can be used in, and even restoration. So that's come on pretty strong here in the last year or so, year and a half, I guess, give or take. The Belfours, the Serve Pros of the world, right? For them, it's been a great asset, because they're able to keep their high dollar technicians on a job site that makes sense for them, not putting up a bunch of plastic and trying to tape walls off, where we can go in and we can install that same wall in just a couple hours.
Yeah, and every single business that you just listed, Walmart, CVS, Lovable, right? There's probably at least one, right? Serve Pro, all these restoration companies, there's at least one or two of them probably within, a stone's throw of just about where everybody lives, right? So
Yep.
you guys, it sounds like you have some pretty big um partners already who are seeing the benefits of this. And it's funny, the reason I even reached out, right, was I was walking past a construction site with my wife, and there were a bunch of fences, and they've been there for like 6 months. And I was like, I wish I owned that company, because that guy put those fences up one time, and he's getting paid every single month. And I was like, I think there's a franchise that does this. And so I
Yep.
know you guys don't do construction sites outdoors, which is what I walked past, but you do them all inside. And I was like, man, that is awesome, because you buy it once and then you just make money off of it, almost like a rental property, except you don't have people calling because their toilets are clogged, right? So I thought that was really like a really interesting model, and that's what made me like even think about inviting you on the franchise or on the podcast. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now. I know people are like, okay, well, you've got this cool product, everybody wants this recurring income, whatever. So how are you going out and finding? If I was a franchisee, like how am I going out and finding people who need these walls?
There's a couple different ways. There's ABC, which is a contractors association, contractor group. And they normally meet once a month for a continuing ed type situation. They'll do golf tournaments. Guys, they'll do all kind of stuff, right? And so you're definitely gonna join that. There's another organization called IFMA, IFMA, and that's where you're gonna get the folks that run the facilities for the hospitals, run the facilities for the 5 Hiltons in town, the 3 shopping centers, or the 10 or 20 McDonald's, right? That's that type of group. And so those are great pieces there. Past that, I mean, as far as Homefront Brands goes, we do a lot on our side. We're doing a lot of traveling on the national regional section. We're meeting with big players. We're setting at 90 franchisees and 350 territories out there. I know I'm answering a question early for you, but we're setting across the country where we can service anything, anywhere from Canada, 17 locations in Canada, all the way down to Miami, Florida. So we have it covered, and so now we're out meeting with these folks and drumming up those relationships. And that's going well. That's really going well. So that's definitely the future of where we're headed there. But we have a lot of leads that come in too. We have somewhere between 30 and 60 leads a week that come in, and we pass those out to the franchisees. We do a lot through the call center when those leads come in as well, which is nice. And no fee, by the way, for that. We don't charge for that. So that's always nice. And then there's also pieces for the folks that are owners, have what we call RFP sites, right? And those are requests for proposal sites, and Dodge and ProConstruct.net, things of that sort. And there'll be a couple specific ones for each area that play better, and you'll be able to pull those up each morning and see the Walmart on 2nd Street is redoing their pharmacy, and here are the 5 approved contractors, and here's the blueprint that you need. And we'll teach you how to read all of that, and you'll be able to reach out to those guys and build relationships.
Awesome. So it sounds like networking with contractors in the area through associations. The franchisor does a lot in terms of getting contracts and building leads and answering the phone when those leads call. And then lastly is looking for who needs it locally. They're putting out requests for bids, and you guys are answering those. So you have more than one way to get leads. All of them sound great, right? And it's good that you're not just relying on one specific area. Okay, so now let's keep moving through this. You've got a lead. You've got someone who wants you to put up a wall. Are you going out and measuring it? Like, what's an owner doing? Are they sending? How many employees are they having to actually put it up once they win the bid? Like, let's kind of take us through a job from an owner's perspective.
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple different scenarios here, and I would say that probably 60% of our owners out there are going to be more owner operators. So they are going to actually go walk the job site. They're going to meet the contractor. They're going to measure things. They're going to look at the blueprint, if you will, and figure out the Lego, right? How to build the Legos, and then be able to bid that. So, but then there's another section too that is more of the kind of GM style, and I would say that's going to make up the other, let's call it 35%, if you will. 5% being a full executive model, but the other 35% are kind of a GM model. So they're either keeping their corporate position, hey, Jason, I have 25, 30 hours a week that I could throw at this, or 20 hours a week I can throw at this. And at that point, we're hiring a salesperson, and that salesperson now is taking that role and moving that direction. Outside of that, then you have that last kind of 3 to 5%, a full executive, where they have GMs and salespeople and all these types of things. And to kind of take it a step further, that's one of the really neat things about this that's been so attractive, and why it moves so fast, is there's not a lot of overhead. I mean, your overhead is walls. You don't need a big warehouse to get started. You don't need, big fancy trucks that are logoed. Most of the folks are renting U-Haul or Penske or, and they should pay me for the advertising on that one, but, Sprinter vans, things like that. And you rent them for the day. And then really just outside of that, a 20 by 20 storage facility is all you need. You need a place to put the walls, a place to clean them, and a place to deploy.
Very cool. So low overhead, low employees. I saw 3 guys putting up the walls in the video. Is that usually what you start with, is 3 employees who are actually doing the installs?
Generally 2. I mean, 2 guys can put up kind of the average, and I'm going to kind of jump forward here a little bit to give you some ideas here. But, an average job is about 50 linear feet. It's 50 to 70, let's call it. Two folks can put that together 3 hours. Maybe 4. Wow. In the beginning, yeah, it may take you 4 or 5 hours because it's your first wall, but you're going to get it down. I mean, I have, Joe in Toronto can put, I think he said he could put 75 feet up in like less than 2 hours. So, you get the hang of it. And once you get the hang of it, then it moves pretty quickly.
Okay. So as an owner, really, you only need a storage place, some walls. You'll rent the truck, a couple employees who are going out and putting things together. So it's very simple. And then how long are these walls staying in place on average once they get onto the site?
Yeah, great question. So you're going to be, in the beginning when we started this, it was around that 60 or 70 day mark. And now those types of jobs are now going to more of that 60 to 90 day mark, right? They're staying longer. Now the average on that is going to change a little bit because we got into the restoration world. And so as you would imagine a restoration job is not 90 days in most cases, right? It's you're going to talk maybe 10 days or 12 days or 30 days, right? And so that average will be pulled down a little bit because of the restoration world. But we're seeing the more construction site situations and shopping malls and things of that sort. The contractors are pulling us in earlier, so it's that time has now moved a little bit longer, and you're going to see some jobs that are a year, 2 years. When you start talking airports
Yeah.
and redoing a TSA situation. If you've ever been through TSA, which I'm sure a lot of folks have, you've seen these walls up. That's how they funnel you. Once you get through the big scanner, that's how they funnel you in, where you put your belt back in and do all that stuff, right? And you'll see those temp walls setting there. So, but yes, some of those jobs, it just really depends. Each job is so different, and we've got several different types of wall, and so that's going to play into the length of time as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But like for these construction jobs, you basically you don't want your inventory sitting in your storage unit, right? So like once you have it deployed, you have 60 days, let's call it, to find another job for that next set of wall, right? And then for the restoration one, it might only be there for 10 days, but I imagine their next job, there's a pretty good chance they're going to need walls at the next job too, right? It's like, yeah, so it's quick turnover. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so you mentioned now. I mean, I feel like now we have a pretty good idea of like what the business does day to day, right? Let's talk about like a great owners. So I'm sure you by now you have seen some owners shake out to the top, some owners shake out to the bottom. What are the characteristics of the good franchisees who can do these things? They can manage the crews, they can do the networking, they can submit the RFPs, right? They can do whatever they need to do, to be successful in this franchise.
Josh, I think it comes back to normal franchising, right? Activity. I think if you're active in the business and you're things, the ball is moving, I think there's no way but up, right? I think in any situation you find the folks that may not do a whole lot with it or get stuck in a certain spot, and that's where the business can struggle. But for the most part, activity is everything. Get out there, get yourself known. The wall itself is superior to what else is out there from a retail perspective. There's just nothing that really compares to it. And we're continuing, and I know you're probably going to ask me this at some point in time, but we're continuing to develop, we're continuing to R&D all the time. And so we're just getting better and better and better. And so it's the easier, faster way to and better way to do things. It's not kind of, well, I won't get into a big spiel there, but it makes sense. Right. And so it's not necessarily a hard sell, in my opinion. There's a value prop there, obviously, to the contractor, but it's not a real difficult sale to them, because once you make it make sense, that's a big retention rate as well because of that. A 98% retention rate. When we get a contractor in, they'll tell you, I'll never use drywall again. It saves them so much time. So much effort. It's clean. It looks good. It's better for the actual customer. Yeah. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, so you're looking for someone who's action oriented, right? He's going to go out and get things done. Sounds like they don't need a super strong sales background, right? As long as they're willing to go out and do the work, you have a great product. What are other characteristics of your top franchisees, or were there any shared backgrounds?
Yeah, I would. It's a little bit across the board. I mean, we have several attorneys. We have a lot of high level C-suite folks, bankers. We've seen a lot of financial bankers, investor kind of folks in. We have a couple surgeons and medical folks in. So whether that be medical device sales, whether that be facilities managers, whether that be actual surgeons, it's a little bit across the board. I think if somebody has been successful in life in general and can put in the activity and run the business, I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, yeah. I think I kind of hear that, right? If you have the right training and support, you take a competent individual and they're going to be competent at whatever, right? Whatever they attempt to do, as long as they're working hard at it. So maybe that's a good time to move into that, right? So let's talk training and support. What are franchisees getting from you guys?
Yeah, a lot. So it's again, very simple concept. So no, we're not teaching you how to use sprayers and all different types of things. I mean, it's a Lego unit, right? We're going to give you the Legos and we're going to teach you how to build them. But more than that, I think it's the 8-week onboarding process is pretty powerful. We have about roughly 25 to 30 hours of virtual classroom work immediately when somebody comes on board. The day after, they're scheduled with their business coach, they're scheduled with their marketing coach. Things get moving, and we walk day by day, week by week, up to the point of 6 to 8 weeks. Then you go to Charlotte. Once you're in Charlotte, Huntersville, our home office is, then now you're in a position where now we get to go build, right? We've been talking about the Legos, and we've been out there communicating the Lego system, if you will, the temp wall, modular wall system to the contractors and things of that sort. And we start that about week 5. So our franchisees are actively pursuing work prior to ever coming to see us in physical training. So we're working with them well up front of that process. So that way, when they're sitting there in Charlotte and we're building walls and we're talking about contracts and how to look at certain job sites and how we want to talk about this or phrase this or write this up, they've already done several bids. 90% of the cases, they're already out there. They've made those they may even have already landed a job, and they may, if not, they may be waiting on one to come back. They may have 2 or 3 contracts out there and just waiting for those to get signed. So we're very proactive. Michael O'Driscoll, one of our mottos, I guess you would say, of Homefront Brands is if we start well, it goes well. And so I think that's super important, and you'll hear that a lot as you come into the Homefront Brands family.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, you do it in a way that makes sense, right? A lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to learn how to build the walls, but who cares if you know how to build the walls if you don't have anyone to build them for, right? So that makes sense, right? You got the online training, you get them out, you get them selling, and then when you actually teach them how to sell, it's more impactful if they've got some reps, right? And then they're in there and they're coming back and they're hitting the ground running. Okay, so they come back, let's say they have a question on their marketing, they have a question on hiring, they have a question on whatever, right? Like, how many people do they have? Do they have one business coach? Do they have a business and a marketing? Like, as a franchisee, what does my support system look like?
Yeah, so yeah, you'll have one designated person for that. We have several folks on staff for that, and Tom and Chris are great, and they'll help you manage that. Marketing, gosh, I think we probably have 45 folks in marketing across all the brands, but there are some specific folks as well for each brand. And so you'll have your specific, I think Gabrielle is in charge of that. You'll have Gabrielle there anytime you need her. And yeah, you pick up the phone, you call, we're there. And then if you need us, this has happened several times. If you land a large wall and you go, oh my God, what do I do? Great. Then we can actually be out there, right? We'll send somebody out and we'll go out and help. I mean, that's the big thing about Homefront Brands in general is very supportive, very tied to our franchisees. If they're not successful, we're not successful. And I think that's a huge key.
Wow. Okay. So you've got a dedicated business coach. You have a huge marketing team in Homefront Brands, as well as a dedicated marketing person for the brand. And then you said there's someone on call. Is that the business coach, or you have like other people who will pick up the phone if the franchisees need it?
Yeah, so the founding location, for example, I know that Ryan has flown out to several locations at certain times because they needed it, right?
Yeah.
And if we need to get out there, hey, we're gonna find somebody to get out there.
Very cool. So the fact that and you guys aren't charging for that, right? Like, you're just sending people out there to help.
Generally, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I own a franchise. I don't know if it's really simple, but nobody's ever flown out to help me, right? So it's cool that you guys do that. Awesome. All right. And then, we keep bringing up Homefront Brands. I feel like we're kind of dancing around tiptoeing through the tulips here, right? Like, let's talk about Homefront Brands. What is it? Why is it so special to be for, someone who's a franchisee? Why do they care that they're part of a portfolio called Homefront Brands?
There's so much power in that. I mean, it's not it's not, this is our one brand and this is end all be all. We're all, a lot of us on the team. There's about probably 85 of us or so on the full team there at the home office. And a lot of us have been around franchising for a long time. And some amazing people. When you talk about, Steve Murphy with Plato's Closet, Played Against Sports, I mean, just grew a huge conglomerate. I don't know all the numbers. Jeff is better at that, but Ben Carson Jr., on our board. I mean, just some of these, Tony Tate, our old Secretary of Defense, underneath the Obama and Bush administration. I mean, just some of the talent that is here outside of franchising. Then you start talking about Michael O'Driscoll, 30 years of franchising and built a huge, basically Home Depot in Australia, and then came over here and built a bunch of stuff, so, and then of course, Jeff, and I've been around for a while. You've got Todd Bingham. Me and Todd have worked together for many years. Todd's, been a part of other consulting groups and different things and done a lot there. So it's the amount of talent and skill that's there at Homefront Brands is just, it's phenomenal. Which is why I'm here. When Jeff called me, I think I was number 10 when we were building this. I'm almost at 3 years or so with these guys. And when Jeff called me, it was about a 15-minute conversation. And I was in. I was done. I knew what his vision was. I knew where he was going. I knew the people he wanted to put in play and who he was bringing on. And I said, I want to be a part of that. It's kind of the vision that we've all had for so long. It's all personal money. So there's no PE behind it. We don't have to worry about any of that. If Jeff says go, we go. If we say no, then we don't, right? And it's nice. And we can take those suggestions from franchisees and things of that sort and really do some cool stuff with it. It's definitely a big family. So to answer your question, I know that's long-winded, but it's a big family. I mean, we really are.
Yeah. So just to kind of put it, maybe to summarize it, right? So because you have this huge group of franchises, right? I think where are you at 8 now? 10?
No, we're at 6.
We're at 6. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I just, I see them all the time,
It's coming.
right?
It's coming. Yes.
Yeah. I see them all the time. So you're at 6. And so the talent that 6 franchises can support, right? In terms of the royalties, because these guys have to get paid, right? And you're not going to bring in the former Secretary of State unless you're building something, or Secretary of Defense unless you're building something big, right? And so the ability to say, hey, we're a big group with this experience that has a great vision is able to attract people, because I think all these other businesses, all the franchise that we're in, the industries, you can build great companies in them, right? So it's hard to with you guys, you have a better widget, right? But with window cleaning, it's hard to have a better widget, right? You have to have a better business. And I think that sometimes that's what people miss when they're getting into franchising. They're looking for something sexy, when really it's can you do this one thing that people need really, really well, right? And you can't do that unless there's leadership and experience and savvy people on the team, which is, it sounds like you guys are building. Okay, so the vision, you said, hey, this vision is what sold you. There's a driving force behind it. Can you articulate that to us? Kind of what is the big vision of Homefront Brands?
Yeah, I think it's we're going to continue to add brands, but it's not just about adding another tool to the box, right? It's we have to add the right tools. So one thing that I know that we look at and we talk about it all the time is what do we need that can complement, right? What's out there, but what can complement temporary walls? What can complement top rail fence? What can complement the designery, right? And so now it gives folks the ability to not just come in and go, hey, I want to do temporary walls and that's it. I want to do temporary walls, and then, like you said, maybe I want to do temporary fencing, right? Maybe I want to add that to I'm going to lay it over the top. It's a very similar style business, those types of things. And so that's really, I think the vision moving forward is to get to that 10 to 15 brand mark, but have things that people can use and lay over the top of, and build a 2 to 3, business structure, if you will.
Yeah, because if you have a franchise and you live in a city, at some point, if you want to build bigger, you have to go to a new city if it's the same franchise. But if you're in this family, hey, I want to own, I'm in Denver. I own all of West Denver. I own from Boulder down to Highlands Ranch. And that's an hour. I live right in the middle, and it's an hour each way.
Beautiful.
And I don't want to go east. It's not great, if you go out that side of Denver. So if I want to not have to drive 2.5 hours and build the infrastructure where I don't live, and I'd have to get a new brand. And I have a standalone business, right? So I'd have to go find something totally new. But with you guys, it would be easy to just, you already trust the team. Honestly, probably more than half the reason why I got this one is because I really like the team. Now I have to go find a new team, right? But with you guys, it's already there. And so they're just kind of picking the model. So that's cool. It's a good point that I didn't really think about. Um,
Well, it's the same customer base, and a lot. I mean, if you find something, Josh, that fits, I don't recall which one you have, but if you find something that's, if you have a B2C style business, let's say window cleaning, right? And now you want to add on a fencing business, right? Or something of that sort or whatever. It's the same customer base. And I think that's key. And again, that's kind of my point to that is we're finding things that now people can bring into what they already have.
yeah. And a list is gold, right? A list of people who trust you is gold. So cool. Very cool. Okay. So let's dive into a little bit of startup costs, times, what's going into it. If someone wants to move forward, like what do they need to bring to the table?
Being such a simple model, I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on just how many territories do you want, right? And what type of model are you running? So it's I would say a single territory, small wall package, basic starter, probably one questions, but the average individual is in that 3 to 4 territory range, which is going to put you more in that 3 to 350 range. Because when you get to that point, you're going to want a bigger wall package in stock. You don't want to be waiting on it, right? And lead time's not bad. I mean, depending on where you're at in the country, you're somewhere between 5 and 10 business days for lead time. So it's not horrible, but we've got a couple different manufacturer locations there, so that helps. Yeah, I would say 150 to 350, depending on territory.
Yeah, and I mean your territories. This is one thing I liked about your territories is it's tied directly to your customer base. So it's not like 300,000 people because you're not selling to individuals. You're selling to companies, and so I think it's 4,000 companies, right? Which is a lot. And then you were saying that it's like surgeons and bankers, so they're obviously coming in, with 4 or 5 territories because they want to replace a surgeon or a banker or whatever salary, right? So most franchises you couldn't do that with one territory, right? So these guys are coming in with big aspirations. 350 territories, give or take. Where's open, right? What parts of the country are open?
So, excuse me. Right now, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Southwest Florida, huge market right there. I'm very surprised that's still sitting there. So basically St. Pete down to Naples, Marco Island.
Oh.
I don't know why it's still sitting there. What else do we have? We've got a little bit in Connecticut. We have Boise, Idaho, another great one. I think I mentioned Toledo, Fort Wayne, some single territories, nice big single territories, great franchise communities. I've done a lot in the past in those communities, and they do really, really well. And then California, we've got quite a bit in California still available. We're not approved currently today in California, but that'll be here any minute. So don't worry too much about that. But gosh, a little bit. I have North Houston right now open, which is
Oh, nice.
wow.
That's a good one too.
That's a phenomenal market, and so that's we've got quite a few folks coming in for that right this second. Yeah.
So
I mean,
a little bit everywhere. Definitely California. And when he says not approved, it's like a franchise law thing. The state has to approve it, and California just takes forever. So it's not like a contractor thing, right? Like that you have to go through some board.
Right. Well, the thing with California that I'll put out there that's pretty neat. It was kind of a pain, but it turned out to be pretty neat. So California actually made some new regulations where they needed the wall to be a different type of wall. And this is a testament to our vendor and our Canadian friends that own 17 locations up there. They built 250,000 square foot and going back to the R&D side of things. And so they were able to produce that wall that they needed with earthquake bracing, fire retardant for a certain hour. And they produced it within 3 or 4 weeks and got it out there. So those things are getting approved as we speak. Should only be a few weeks out from that, same as the FDD. But what's unique about that is now we're in California, but we have the wall that they want, right? That's huge. And so that's going to be a big player, I think, moving forward here in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, that is huge. That's really cool. I didn't know that. Any other major? You said you're always working on improving the walls. Any other major improvements coming down the line? Like what? I don't know. Like how do you improve walls, right?
Well, good question. Yeah. So, great question. Since the inception of this, let's call it January of 23, right? We had what we call core wall, which is a closed cell foam. And the center you'll see on videos, especially if you come to me and talk to me. It's a closed cell foam. It's stainless steel, and powder coated on one side with aluminum and surgical steel pieces, right? Surgical pieces, which was the core wall, right? Nice, heavy, thick. I say heavy, it's not too bad, but very sturdy wall. And then we kept getting requests for, okay, how tall can we go? So we developed our secondary wall, which is no foam in the middle, just stainless steel, but the railing is on the inside of it, not on the outside. So when you put it up, it looks like a wall, like you put it there,
Hmm.
like you built a wall and painted it. And it can go up to 50 feet because
Oh, wow.
we were getting a lot of requests for like atriums and hotels and warehouse type situations where they didn't need the negative air component like a medical space. They needed to go up. They needed a wall. And that's it. And so that wall has been really, really good, and it's much cheaper, right? Because it doesn't have all those components. It doesn't need them. I think Patrick over in Charlotte has almost 1,000 feet of it put into a stadium just for crowd diversion, right?
Oh,
Just to
cool.
move people around the soccer game, right? So it's a very basic situation. Then we also have developed here in the last 6 months or so, we developed what we call our light wall, which is a very thin type, more I guess what you would see it like a TSA booth. It's very thin. It's very light. It can be moved around really easy. And that's really for more of our restoration brands. That's a great wall to put up if they just need containment where they can't look at us or they can't see this kind of thing. Then it's perfect for that. So we do. So we're always moving. And there's more coming down the pipe here. And I can't talk too much about some of the stuff, but because it's not there yet. But there's a lot of patents involved and things of that sort. And so, but yeah, we're always moving forward for sure.
Wow. Who would have known, right? That, and I bet you blow the mind of some contractors too. And you're like, oh yeah, we have this. That's
Yeah,
cool.
because a lot of them don't even know it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Right? Who's keeping up with R&D in the wall space, right? That's funny. Okay, cool. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about competitors, right? So you have all this unique stuff. Are there competitors that are doing things similar, or are you kind of coming in and easily winning bids, and like what does that look like?
So we really don't have competitors. Your biggest competitor in this is going to be a drywall guy. Three guys in a white van with drywall. You've got some manufacturing competitors. So Stark being one of those, Swift being another, and they're mom and pop retail shops that just sell retail. They don't rent. They don't do any of that. So if a contractor calls them, they'll sell them on retail. And again, our wall is superior to what's out there. We actually, whenever we started this collectively, we collected every wall that we could find, and we built a better wall. And so yeah, I mean, they're out there. Uh, You won't see them. I mean, we just won't see very much of it. I haven't heard a lot going on. So really, mainly drywall. Drywall guys are you're erasing the old habit of just putting up plywall and drywall, and
Hmm.
and that's putting stick studs or metal studs up, throwing drywall up, grabbing dumpsters, and those types of things. And again, that kind of goes back to the value prop. When a contractor goes into a space, let's call it that Second Street Walmart, if you will, that we were talking about in the pharmacy. I mean, they've got to bring dumpsters in. They've got several contractors on the space. It's noisy. It's loud. It's messy. There's sheep, and all while this Walmart is still open. Walmart doesn't close, and so that general manager is trying to clean things up and move things right and do all this stuff. And that's going to take them 2 to 3 days to build to get that. Let's call it 50 feet up, where we can go in and no dumpsters. We can sweep up, have it up in 2.5, 3 hours, and we can walk out, and it's nice and quiet. And so it saves a ton of time up front, but it also saves a ton of time in the end.
Very cool.
We could save a contractor 5 to 7 days generally.
Oh wow, and I mean that's just money, right? Like because they want to get through that
Huge.
project as quickly as possible.
Well, if construction doesn't start on time and it never finishes on time. And so that's for a contractor, that's the biggest piece is he wants to turn those keys over, right? Because he's probably already behind. So it makes a
Yep.
makes a huge difference.
Yep. Okay, very cool. And then you guys had massive growth a couple years ago. Like 100 territories were added, and then 50, I think, were added the year in that last year. How has it been going? Like how have you guys kept up with the growth? Who have you added to the team? Just I mean that's huge growth, right? So like how have you kept up with it?
Yeah, it's great. Everybody's doing really well. Everybody's really happy. We did roughly a little over 200 territories last year, so it's been they've kept this little elf busy. I'll say that. But yeah, no, everybody's great. Team is solid. We've added a few folks along the way, but one of the things going back to Homefront and Jeff is the vision here is we're putting people in play before they ever need to be there. We're ahead of the game, not behind it. So we're not waiting for someone for the squeaky wheel, right? We've already got those people in play. They've already been trained. They've already been working at it. And as we add, then it fills their position.
Yeah. And, usually I hear that, right? And I'm like a little skeptical, but I looked at your FTD and you've had zero closure, zero turnover in the last 3 years, right? So I feel like there's got to be some truth behind what you're talking about, because those numbers don't lie, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. So let's talk about what are the biggest problems, right? Have you had someone been like, oh my God, like I'm freaking out, like things aren't going well, or like what are the issues that people have, and can you give us like a specific story of how the franchise kind of helped them through that problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any, we've been around this, Josh, for a long time. I mean, I think in any concept, I mean, you're going to have some folks that maybe get startled, right, as they get moving, and I think that really just comes down to cultural relationships, and them being able to call me and go, Jay, what do I do? Where am I at? And it's just the coaching is there, all the pieces are there. It's just kind of holding hands and walking them through that. And if we need to go visit, we'll go visit. Hey, what are you having a challenge with here? Are you having a challenge closing deals? Great. Let's get out there. Let's go close some deals, right? We'll make things happen. So it's hadn't really been anything major with Homefront. I mean, we've had a couple folks with some health issues and things of that sort. That stuff happens, right? But outside of that, I mean, everything's been going pretty smooth.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's a big thing too, right? When someone's really like kind of taking a nosedive, and someone from corporate goes out there and says, okay, what is wrong, and like let's go fix that. That's just got to be a big confidence boost on their part, as well as like the actual helping through that problem.
Yeah, and outside of that, too, to add to that, I know Jeff, president, CEO, and you don't get this in a lot of organizations. I mean, he reaches out to, I want to say, 5 or 10 franchisees each week just to check in, just to
Oh,
say hey,
nice.
just to say hi. And Zach does the same, and Michael does the same, and our presidents and coaches. I mean, it's so there's a whole group of folks behind these.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. And then anything else from like just the future of the franchise, right? So it sounds like you guys probably want to close out the rest of the states, which if you're moving at the rate you have been, you'll probably do it sometime this year. Like what else? What's next on the focus for the TWS team?
Gosh, good question. I think it's just continuing to let the market evolve. I mean, when we came into this, there wasn't a market, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't really exist. We're creating it. And so there's no telling where it goes. It very well may get into fencing, right? Like you talked about. I mean, people are asking us for things. I mean, this year alone, we developed some walls and did some things with some drop ceilings, which is kind of unique,
Oh,
right? That really hadn't been done for some schools. So there was a school that needed a couple classrooms that they had an influx of move-ins and didn't have time to develop more room, right? So we went and built 2 classrooms inside of a cafeteria. So things like that, and it just keeps evolving, it keeps moving, and we're going to keep moving with it. We're gonna build a market for it.
so when that's one franchisee is experiencing that, right? So how are you guys taking these unique experiences and propagating them through the entire system?
Well, there's a lot there, and I'll try to stay short-winded on this, but the operations team, the franchisees collectively do regional phone calls together, do national phone calls together several times a month. So it's a very collective group, and those stories are being shared. And as those stories get shared, it's like, wow, that's a great idea. I need to go do that, right? I need to go talk to those commercial real estate folks. Maybe they do have a 20,000 square foot building that they have a renter for 10,000 of it, but they don't have a renter for the other. And then what are they going to do in between, right? We could put up a
All
temp
right.
wall. And so there's just those unique situations, and that communication between all of them or all the franchisees and our team happens at least once a week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys do have a robust way to kind of capture the lessons learned, internalize it at the corporate level, and then push it back down to the rest of the franchisees as needed.
And if we need to build something, if somebody has a unique situation and we need to build something, it's very likely that we may take it to the table and say, hey, this is a great idea. Let's build it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess you have that too, where it's almost like you don't have to say no necessarily to jobs. You'd say, well, let me see. Because I'm guessing if you guys can't do it, probably no one can, right? So you can kind of come
Right.
up with this brand new thing.
Right.
Huh.
Well, and our manufacturer that we have exclusivity with also owns, again, the 17 locations in Canada. So they're very tied in to who we are and what we're doing here. Great friends of ours, one of the best vendors I've ever worked with. And if we call and say, hey, Joe, here's a thought. What do you think? Okay, great. Let me play with it. Let's build something. Right. So, I mean, there's some really neat stuff there.
Very cool. And so you're already in Canada and the US. Are there plans to go into more countries, or is it kind of just, finish off North America?
Yeah, finish off North America right now. We'll reevaluate when we get to that point. We've had some. I've had several folks from kind of the Cancun's area type situations, large hotel district type situations, reach out to me. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like all because you're in Japan or whatever. Like you still need walls. Like people still build things, right? Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else that you think's important for people to know who are interested in this?
Um, I think the biggest piece that I always like to be pretty straightforward about is this is a B2B style business. So, in your B2C style business, you can turn on your Google Analytics, you can throw out some ads, you can go do some door hangers, knock some doors, things like that, and drum up some business and it can get moving pretty quick. This being a B2B, it is a slower to scale. Right. So, I mean, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to build those relationships, get in front of the right people. And it's kind of got this, well, I don't want to call it a moving ball, but a ball rolling. Right. So if you get the ball moving, then eventually things will start coming to you. But it's, you may walk into Bob the Builder and sorry, I have kiddos. That's a great reference. But, Bob the Builder and he may say, hey, I love it, Jay, but I don't have anything for the next 3 or 4 months because I'm finishing this job. Right. And so you kind of got to wait for these things to move. And so that 6 to 12 month mark is where things really get moving. So as long as you're good with putting in the work up front. And again, the great piece about this on those normal jobs that I talked about, that kind of 70 to 90 day and that 55 linear feet, if you will, the walls will pay themselves off in about 90 days, 90 to 120 days. So
Oh wow.
you get the walls out there, couple jobs later, the walls are paid off. That goes straight to the bottom line. So it's just having and taking the time to know that, hey, it's going to take me 3 to 6 months to get this thing moving. You may land a job straight out of training. You might, right? We've had several folks do that. And you may land some jobs before training. We've had several folks do that. But put on the calendar, a good 3 to 6 months to get things moving.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? Just in general of the relationship, it's like a double-edged sword because maybe it takes you 3 to 6 months to build them and get yeses and to put your first couple walls in, but then once you have those guys and you do a good job, like you've got them forever,
It's
right?
coming back.
And so it becomes this snowball because it's not like a contractor does one job and then they're done. Like they have to do more jobs. Like that's their business. And so yeah, I think that's like anyone who's kind of considering the B2B versus B2C is yeah, you can throw $40,000 at Google Ads or Facebook Ads, and the franchise has a great marketing team, but you're gonna have to spend that every single time because that's a one-time payment, right, from that person. Or maybe it's I don't know, it's lawn treatment, but it's a 9-month churn or whatever, right? Um, but with this and a lot of B2B services, these are years and years and years of relationships. But someone doesn't enter in a multi-year relationship with somebody because of a Facebook ad, right? Like there has to be some work that gets put up front to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point, and I think that's something that people who've never been in business don't really think about. So cool, I appreciate that. Sweet. All right, so yeah, I think that wraps things up pretty well. It's a simple business, strong backing. For the right person in those major markets, this could be a really good opportunity. So thank you, Jason. I appreciate you being here. If anyone's interested in learning more, reach out to me. Let me make sure that those markets are still available. If they're not, right? Maybe if you're open to other markets, we can check that out, or maybe I can find some other great similar businesses in the B2B space where you are living, right? So reach out to me, Josh at tracerfranchising.com, or you can just go to tracerfranchising.com and scroll down, and there's a calendar right there. You can book 30 minutes with me. Awesome. Any last words, Jason?
Man, no, I just appreciate you having me on. It was fun.